about a month before they were holding Disney auditions here in Austin. And I don't know what I was thinking. It was for like resorts and all that shit. So I said, whatever, I'll go. And I went, and as soon as we pulled up, I saw the line of kids, and I looked nothing like any of them. Like, they all looked like early Justin Bieber, Hannah Montana shit. And then I looked at myself, and I was like, yeah, this isn't going to happen. So I didn't even get out of the car. And I had my mom drive me. And she was like, you're not even going to get out of the car. We drove all this way. And I was like, no, fuck this. And she was like, okay. But, you know, anytime there's like another audition or whatever you need to be driven to, I'm not taking you. And I was like, fine. Well, a month later, on TV, I see, you know, the infomercial for America's Got Talent. It says, you know, we're in Austin, and, you know, if you think you have what it takes, come audition. So I was like, I was really thinking about it, and then I just asked her, and she said no, she wasn't going to take me. and then I was like, why? She's like, well, first of all, I don't even know what you're going to do, and second of all, I told you the last time that I'm not taking you to any more auditions because you won't even get out of the car because you're such a chicken shit. And I threw the biggest bitch fit. Like, we got home, and I like went, it was like typical angry teenager stuff. I went to my room, slammed the door, and my dad walked in and was like, you know, why are you slamming doors? What's wrong? And I told him, and he was just like, oh, well, I'll take you. And I was like, okay. I go, okay. And that was it.
Yes, I won.
Yeah, exactly. But I was so scared before I went. Like, I was texting all my friends, and they were like, well, what are you doing? And I said, well, I'm singing. And they were like, well, what are you singing? I said, that's the problem. I don't really want to say, because if I told people what I was going to do, I feel like they were already going to start judging, and then I would have started doubting myself even more, and then I wouldn't have gone in the first place, you know? So I just kept it a secret, and people don't really believe me when I say that nobody knew about it.
You know what, though? I like that you say that, because I can relate to that. I find that, you know, as an artist, I mean, we're very sensitive, to be honest.
Yeah.
So I often do try to keep what I'm, like, say if I'm working on something new and it's very fresh, I do keep that away from people usually, because we're easy to doubt ourselves, I think. And I mean, why not just kind of protect yourself from that, keep yourself away from it a little bit to keep yourself in a positive, you know, state, so that, like you said, you can do what you're doing without having anyone else's negativity go into your mind and kind of mess with that, you know, initial feeling of, I'm just going to go for it. You know what I mean? Right. So that's really cool.
Yeah, because it's something that actually, it's what you do as an artist. You know, it means everything to you, and it's actually very easy to hurt an artist's feelings by saying, you know, that something that they created is shit or whatever they're doing. You know what I mean? It's something that I do take to heart. So yeah, that's why I didn't tell anyone, because I had been doing it for years in my bedroom or just around the house when everybody was gone, because I didn't have a job. I wasn't going to school. And my brother and sister were, and my parents had jobs, obviously. So I was at home a lot by myself. So that's really all I did, was just sing every day. I'm pretty sure I probably annoyed the neighbors.
So the neighbors probably knew you sang,
but
no one else knew.
Well, you know, they probably thought I was watching the same movie every day. Like, that's probably what it was. But
so what was it like when you initially went to audition, and then everything that led up to actually being on the show? Yeah,
right. There's well, actually, that has a lot to do with why people don't believe that it was the first time. People don't understand that there is such thing as a producer's audition. And so you do go to an audition, but it's very private. And from there, they decide if they want you to go on the show. But of course, it's not like I'm going to go up and say, you know, I've never sung in front of anyone minus the producer of this show. Of course. That was one thing. And then it's actually really interesting seeing like comments on these videos. I don't read them much because people can be really brutal online. But I've read some of the... Yeah, it really is. And, you know, it's, you know, he's an actor. He doesn't really dress that way, and he's lying, and they probably hired him to make the show better. You know, and it's crazy when you see stuff like that, because I actually think I used to have that mentality when I would watch these shows. And then I thought I was the only one that was not lying for a while, and I was like, wait a minute, now I get it. You know, this is when it's actually true. Sometimes it seems too good to be true, but it actually is true, you know?
it must be a really weird kind of process, especially if you've not done anything like remotely on that scale before, like just kind of being thrown in, and then all of a sudden people know who you are, and you've just done this big thing, and it must be. Was it difficult to like adjust when people started to know who you were? Like, what was that like?
Well, I remember after I auditioned in front of the judges, and they took me backstage and explained everything to me, and then it was all over, and I walked out of the building, and there were several people out there wanting pictures, and that had never happened to me before, and of course I was more than happy to. But I kind of thought, oh, okay, I can work with this. It wasn't until I got to not Vegas, it was New York, where it became a little bit overwhelming, and I had to question myself if I was ready for it, because I had just performed that night on the Wild Card episode, and exiting the building, there were, I think, hundreds of people standing outside the building. They weren't allowed in. But the doors were all glass, so they could see me coming, and they started screaming. And I didn't know what to do. I was so scared. So I just went outside, and I think I stood there for about an hour or two, just signing shit and taking pictures.
That's awesome, though.
Yeah, and I was more than happy to do it. I was really I appreciate that kind of stuff.
Of course. And
I walked to my hotel, which was right next door, and went up to my room. And for some reason, it was like, you ever heard of like vampirism, where your energy is like drained from you?
Oh, right.
Yeah, that's what it felt like. Like I got to my room and I felt physically drained, and it wasn't from the performance at all. It was from meeting, fans.
Right.
Well, I know people that have had a similar kind of experience, like when they've played a gig, and it'll be every night on the tour, they maybe spend 45 minutes or so at the merch table signing stuff and meeting their fans, and afterwards they're just completely drained. It's like there's all that adrenaline from playing the show, and that kind of fuels them, and then as soon as it's done, like you can see it in their face, they're done, like for the whole day, like that's it, they're done.
You're giving so much of yourself, right? And
right.
There is a value in that. It's amazing, but you also, I think that just needs to be balanced out with, I guess, me time. Just that
right.
A little bit of time, just kind of bring yourself to a like for me, I do yoga. You know what I mean? What did you do to bring yourself to ground yourself?
Well, as bad as it probably will sound, when it comes to stuff like that, the last thing I want to do is listen to music, because I'm so involved, that, but that time, there was actually a little bit of depression in there also, because I didn't know where I was like, is this going to take off, or is this going to be something that just lasts a little while and then it's gone and no one gives a shit who you are? But if it does take off, is this every day? Is that what it's going to be? And so I think I just went to bed. I just went to bed, and I'm one of those people that likes to fill voids with food. Mm-hmm. And I eat a lot more than people think I do. So that's pretty much what I did in the morning. The next day I didn't have to do anything. So I just went down to the lobby and bought a whole bunch of junk food, went upstairs, stuffed my face. But that's another thing that was actually, that got to me a bit, was the next day I didn't have to do anything until the night. And it was after that performance, it was like, okay, now that performance is over, it's on to the next one. We have to start planning it, So there's really no time to rest. I just had one day,
Mm-hmm. And it's weird because obviously with the way the shows are edited, as viewers, we probably don't think of it in that way. We don't realize what the schedule's like, and I always hear people talking about these kind of shows and say, oh, it's like the easy route or whatever, and I don't think it is. I think it's a lot more work than people realize. So you can probably.
I'm going to be honest to say I'm someone who thinks that. You know what I mean? I'm on the show right here. I'm going to tell you, I'm someone who thinks it's the easy route, or I've thought that way. I mean, and I mean, I guess the way I'm looking at it is it's just a different route, and there's no really right route. I mean, any way you can get yourself out there, and get some recognition for something that you're doing, it's silly not to. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, I'm not saying it's right for everybody.
It's very true, because I've seen this show before, and you think they go audition, and if they make it, it's all done, and then you're famous, and it doesn't work that way. And it's what sucks about it. It's they're herding cattle, in other words. They start with all these talents, and they're all, being shot off one by one, until it's down to the favorites. And if you're one of the favorites, you get more attention from the crew. Mm-hmm. So I was one of those that got way more attention, and I hate attention. So, when it's like constantly calling me and telling me, okay, you need to be here for this meeting, and then you need to go here for rehearsals, and then stage direction at this time, and then you get like a 30-minute lunch break, and then you got to come back for this and this and this. It's like, fuck my life, So, but I couldn't complain because, I think I knew what I was getting myself into. Mm-hmm. But yeah, like you were saying, a lot of people think that it's the easy way. And I guess for some people it kind of is, because, if you're usually, even if you don't win these competitions, you're still offered some type of deal. And it didn't work that way with me. I think after the show was over, I was pretty much disposable, and they didn't really want to use me anymore, or help me sign to something or anything. Mm-hmm. So after that, I was knocked back down. I still had fans though that were very supportive, mm-hmm. and I had to make a name for myself on my own by booking my own gigs and traveling on my own to promote myself pretty much. And it took a while. It didn't happen overnight. It wasn't like, oh, you're on the show and then bam, you have all this money.
So for you, it was almost like a jump start. It felt like it jump started you. It got you some recognition. And like you said, they're herd cattle, and then the show's done and you're disposed of. But at the same time, there seems to be people who really got what you were doing that stuck by you.
Totally,
which really helped give a jump start, which is really cool.
Yeah, they're really great.
And it probably would have been more difficult for you to find those people. If you were doing everything by yourself and you didn't have America's Got Talent as a platform to kind of get into these people's TV screens or YouTube or however they saw you, it gave you a really good platform to meet these people and to connect with new fans.
Totally, yeah. And they're really great. And then there's the ones that didn't stick around for the long run, because they were the ones who really got me and said, this taught them a valuable lesson, I suppose, of, don't judge people based on their looks. And, and it doesn't really matter what we all look like. We have the right to be individuals, and doesn't mean we can't be friends, kind of thing. But then there are the other people that claim to love me and be my fans, but they just wish I would dress differently. And it's
interesting.
It doesn't sound like much support to me. You know what I mean? They're like, oh, he's so great and he's so talented. If only he got rid of the ridiculous contact lenses. And it's like, I don't even know you. Why am I going to take my shit off for you? Like,
thank you. Yes, exactly. I think the appeal is that you don't look like the typical opera singer. You know what I mean? I think that to talk about visual, I think that's one of the reasons that you were a favorite on the show, that you were different. It gives people, a feeling like, you don't have to, you don't need to look just like everybody else to be on a show like that, or to get, fans and to grow a following. I think that was part of the appeal. So, I mean, I think there's always going to be people that want to change you, especially in the music industry.
Yeah, well, I would think that people would be over it by now. And then there was a point where I started getting really angry because I was still working on music and traveling and performing. And for some reason, I thought at that point people would just be over the way I looked and they would just listen to the music, but they weren't. And I started lashing back at people, and they were upset because I pretty much said, if you don't like it, then fuck off, and, then they were all offended and like, you're not supposed to talk like that. You have fans and you're going to upset lots of people. And I was like, no, my fans know how I talk. Trust me, and if you don't
that's part of the appeal, that you're being yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's like, I'm not going to kiss your ass because I was on America's Got Talent. Like, that they portrayed me, or that's the person I was at the time. I was very shy. I didn't speak my mind, and I just pretty much did whatever anyone told me to do. And now that I've seen the world, or lots of it, and met a lot of people, I've grown through my experience. And I'm not saying I'm a mean person. I'm not. I could be probably one of the nicest people you'll ever meet. But if if it's something so ignorant as the way I look is bothering you, then yeah, I'm going to tell you to fuck yourself. Like,
That's
I don't
right,
care.
Man. No, it just seems like you come to your own. You've learned to be assertive. You know what I mean? And I think it's growing a little bit, you know, and also I think, like you said, dealing with that for so long, people not, you know, just focusing on the fact that you look a certain way. You know what I mean? And because you want to, whatever, you know, and especially I think, especially if they're saying they like what you do, but they hate the way you look.
Yeah, and then they always want to be like, they want to like overanalyze it and say, you know, is he dressing this way to hide his true self? And it's,
you know, what I want to ask you though, because I would say out of all the judges that Sharon Osbourne seemed to really get you, and she seemed to be really supportive of you. What's it like off the cameras? You know, is it just
do you really get to see them very much, you know, when the cameras are off, or is it pretty much you're only with the judges and when the cameras are on?
You know, I never actually got to meet them, and I've never shaken their hands. The only time that I was close to them was, I was close to Sharon, was when I first auditioned in Austin, and when they pulled me backstage, and then I was still back there after the show was over, and I just saw her walk past me. She was really short, and it caught me off guard. But no, I never got to meet them, so I honestly don't know what it's like when the cameras are off. Although I have seen Nick Cannon when the cameras are off, and he looks tired. He looks really tired.